Bike Shop Radio was never really about bikes. It was and is more about the conversations that happen in the bike shop amongst the tiny crew of people hunkered down for long hours in a single room. We are obsessive weirdos and we can't help it. These are the conversations that happen at 718 Cyclery in Brooklyn, New York. Oh, yeah.
Everybody excited now?
Are you all ready for this? Ready for this means today on Bike Shop Radio, we're talking about Jock Jams. Everything Jock Jam. This is Joe from 718.
Oh, and I'm Hope.
From where? From where?
Oh,
your
from
blog.
pickinguprocks.com.
Right. Should we turn that off?
Yes.
Let's start. So I can't take any more of this. We tried to real production value at the beginning with the music fading in, but it's just too much to bear. All right. So this was a topic that Hope came to me with, and I thought for sure we need to get this out.
Right. We wanted to have a negative episode. And what's one of the musical scourges of humanity? That's Jock Jams.
I think everyone can get behind that. It's the Tom Petty postulate. Oh. What monster could hate Tom Petty? What monster could like Jock Jams?
Right. If you were 10 years old in 1995, I get why you might have some fondness for this. But if you're a grown ass man or woman, there's no excuse for enjoying it.
And it's also the question of like what, stadium music and what, that kind of led into, there, when you're a kid and going to baseball games in the 70s and 80s and hockey games, and there was an organ, and that was kind of it. And maybe the organ was like a smart ass guy who like would play Three Blind Mice when like the umpires would talk about a call or something like that, but charming, the good old days. And then it's hard to say where. Yeah. And you can hear I can see a hockey game in 1980 with like the refs kind of discussing something and the organ player playing Three Blind Mice.
Yeah, a little charge.
Yeah. But I wonder where, it's hard to say like where it's like walk-up music in baseball. Like where did that start? Right. And why when you go to a football game, do they feel that you have to get pumped full of music at every down moment? I mean, it's unbelievable. You go to a Jet game and it's just so much noise.
I'll tell you something. Because we used to, society used to move much more slowly. We were much more patient. We were used to things taking a really long time.
Scoring baseball games, right? Sitting there
things
scoring
took a long
game.
time for dad to get a raise, for people to, make enough money to buy a house. You know what I mean? Things took time. Now everyone's got a really short attention span, so there's this need to keep everyone pumped up, like on the Red Bull for however long the game lasts.
Right.
Because to me, like even now, just to go off track right away, one of the things I hate at Citi Field is when they get out those T-shirt guns and they start playing that very song by Too Unlimited. And here's the joke. They used to call them in England Too Limited because it was just two kind of models off the street who couldn't do anything. But this need to constantly entertain. There's no downtime at a sporting event anymore. No.
And it's kind of like, at minor league baseball, they used to have all these great little events. And I remember going to, and that's just like in the 50s and 60s and like, right. And the Coney Island, when they had a baseball team, or they still do, when they started their minor league baseball team, the Cyclones, I remember I went to some games early on. And it was great. It was all kinds of funny entertainment.
Did they have a sausage race?
Yeah, there was like Saturday Night Fever night, because it was down in Coney Island. And it was entertaining. Like, it was funny.
Right.
And now it's just like blasting music. It's aggressive, like, at the beginning of a Jet game, it's like this montage of like these jets flying, this big video screen, like these jets flying in, it's real militaristic,
very masculine.
Really macho and masculine and very like, yeah.
Right. So it's definitely changed because, and I do think, I don't know if it was rooted in like all the football chanting that goes on in Europe, soccer.
Right.
Where they would take famous songs that change the lyrics to something really offensive.
I mean, Jock Jam is essentially lots of Euro trash rappy songs, right? I mean, maybe that's the root of it.
It's true. Yeah. Everything from like Pump Up the Jam to Rednecks, which we'll talk about later. A lot of it is just cheesy Euro pop dance. I would use the word dance really loosely.
and I was thinking the other day too, like I wonder if the original stadium like chant is the "We Will Rock You," dun dun ch, dun dun, because every high school auditorium can do that chant, where you're stamping your feet and clapping your hands. And I wonder if that was the blueprint for Jock Jams. But, you're right. I mean, 1995 was a fertile ground to receive Jock Jams. It was the perfect time and the perfect place.
Do you think, did you watch wrestling at all? Do you feel like that had something to do with it?
Yeah, I probably did, but no,
had like entry music.
Yeah, that's actually a great point.
And I'm wondering if maybe that had something to do with even the future, which is like the baseball walk-on music.
Well, wrestling was entertainment, and I think that
that was all about, you had to be pumped up.
Yeah, and football and baseball took a lot of cues from understanding that it's entertainment. Right. And, when you go to a baseball game for 3 hours, there's not a lot to do. I mean, besides
Well, at Citi Field there is, because the food court is exceptional. I would like to say it'll take you an inning and a half to get a veggie burger if you're someone like me, but still worth it. Worth it.
I remember the old Shea Stadium. I used to run around the ramps, up and down the ramps, because I was so with my friends, because we were so bored watching these stupid games. I mean, my dad would drag me to, a doubleheader with the 1979 Mets. I mean, how can you think of a better way to spend 8 hours?
All children at baseball games, because they're not wired to be that patient.
Right, and now especially with the phones and the this and the that.
Not at all. Oh,
so it was the Pirates. I remember. We went to this doubleheader. My dad took me. It was like a day-night doubleheader. In the second inning, I remember asking him if it was almost over. And he was like, "Are you kidding me? We have hours left." And we ended up leaving, maybe early in the second game. But I remember driving home, and I just remembered this. Must have been 9. But I remember we were still listening to it on the radio. Dad on the way home in the car. And I was like, I can't believe this is still going on. I can't believe I still would have been there. And it's not even close to being over. This is crazy. I mean, I like baseball and all, but I just don't have the time to watch. I don't have the time. So, maybe...
Baseball's a good game if you want to do other stuff.
Yeah.
And watch a game of some sort. That's why I like it, because you could be distracted. You didn't have to look up the whole time.
Right.
Having said that, I have a lot of nostalgia about baseball in the olden days, in the 70s and 80s. But I was like that too. It's just where after a while, you weren't even looking towards the field. You were looking back at the souvenir stand. You were in other places mentally.
Yeah, and I remember being I literally would be afraid to look down to eat my ice cream because I thought a foul ball would hit me. That's how I used to. I mean, that's how
we talked about this foul ball thing. Anything could happen to you.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten a foul ball or a puck? You've gotten a lot of pucks.
No, I've gotten a lot of pucks. I think I said I was one time. This was at Shea. I was in the box seats, and my fantasy had always been to catch a foul ball. Remember, you used to bring your mitt to the game.
Yeah, right. In between innings, you'd kind of get it all set.
So somebody fouled something back, and it was coming straight toward me. And I didn't really realize how fast.
Was it slow motion in a way,
back.
But fast?
It was, but it was
slow and fast. Did you see
the
seams of the ball?
Fast. It was spinning.
Yeah.
And it was like a line drive, and I just was I kind of ducked it. The people right in front of me caught it, but that's when I learned foul balls are dangerous, and I have no interest in getting a foul ball. At this point,
I almost caught one at remember the Mayor's Trophy game?
Oh yeah.
It's even hard to find online, but during the All-Star break, for a couple years, the Mets would play the Yankees in a charity game for the Jimmy Fund, which was that somehow tied to the Red Sox, somehow some Boston-related charity.
I can't remember what it was for.
It was interleague play before interleague play happened. It was an exhibition. There's not a lot of information out there about it, about the history of it. But I remember we were at, I think, it must have been Yankee Stadium where we went to watch that particular game, and I was behind home plate, but way up high. And Dave Winfield hit one, fouled one back, and I almost caught it.
See, that would have been a really good one to catch.
Yeah.
You don't want to catch it from some utility player, right? Or did they still use that utility
player?
Yeah,
they're all
just
utility
some freaking pinch hitter. You want it off Reggie Jackson.
Another thing too, you remember when the during 1974 and 75, Yankee Stadium was being renovated, so the Yankees played at Shea. And those are some bad Yankee teams. And I've always contended that there's hardly any footage of those days. I think the Yankees have like buried any footage of the Yankees playing at home as a home game at Shea
Stadium.
Stadium.
70s Yankees have been redacted. I know.
Yes.
You won't. People are not talking about Danny Cater and Jake Gibbs.
With Bobby Mercer was the big guns of that team.
He was a superstar. Yeah.
But yeah, the new Yankee Stadium, the new old Yankee Stadium, in '76, I think it opened for.
I went to that first series they had at the new stadium. I'd never been to the old one. It was the Yankees and the Twins.
Wait a minute, you mean the old Yankee? You mean
the new 1976? Like the first.
That was the old stadium, just kind of renovated.
Right,
the renovated old stadium.
Because
now there's a new stadium.
Right. Now there's a new stadium.
I think of Reggie Jackson. I think of remember that the Ice-T commercial where it was maybe it was Arizona Ice-T or Snapple when they had little claymations of Reggie Jackson with the big sunglasses.
Oh, yeah.
And I think of those Yankees and the Burger King baseball cards in the late 70s, and I knew that whole team, but I wasn't really a Yankee fan. But it was just so late 70s Yankees were really kind of good. And
they were iconic.
Yeah.
I think I told you I was at that Met doubleheader against the Phillies where it was in between games. They put up on the scoreboard that Thurman Munson died at the game.
Right.
I've never forgotten. This was really kind of hot. It was kind of rainy.
Yeah, I remember that day too. I wasn't there.
And the whole crowd, everyone went quiet. Even I was like, it was stunningly. Yeah. It was a crazy moment. They wrote about it in the paper, I think.
Well, there's just an anniversary just came out. It was 79. It was 1979 in August. It was
just so, I'd never, because at least for me, I'd never experienced a real baseball player who I knew. I'd met him once, dying. I think I told this story. I met him and it was Sparky Lyle, Thurman Munson, and Ron Bloomberg at the mall. Right. And this was
were they signing things 70s. Or they were just there? Okay, they weren't just there shopping.
And so I guess a week before that, Thurman Munson had gotten in one of his fist fights with Carlton Fisk, right? And so my first question to him, and I was a child, all right, keep this in mind. I said, "Why did you fight with Carlton Fisk?" And he's like, "I don't know." Shrugged his shoulders. And Sparky Lyle looked at me and he winked at me.
Oh,
that was
right.
and he was smiling, and I thought, oh.
There we go.
Right. So Sparky became my singular Yankee idol. I hated the rest of them, but he, like I say, he was cool. He had long hair, big chewing tobacco. Yeah. And and he and I bonded over our mockery of Thurman Munson. Rest in peace, Thurman. So I've never forgotten that. I always wonder what these old guys would make of all this mayhem now.
Sparky Lyle pretty outspoken right now about I thought he was outspoken about the steroid stuff, or maybe it's the utility player kind of aspect, or the non-tough guy approach to baseball.
Right.
He's out there. He's out there talking about this stuff.
Because back in his day, there was no such thing as middle relief. You know what I mean? You toughed that game out till the end. It's you had to pitch to the very end.
Yeah, hundreds of innings. I mean, that's it's there's no. There's no way any of those records are ever going to get broken, because there's just no Cy Young winning 100 games a year or something, or 100 whatever it is. There's just no way the game is just
no. There was no such thing as Tommy John surgery, because Tommy John was still pitching. Yeah. Okay, so that's just
but the roster stayed the same size. It was always a 24-man roster. Mm-hmm. So you just wonder if they're just using. The idea of really utilizing these 24 guys to the best of your ability, because they're not all going to be superstars, but they're all going to be really. You're on a major league roster. You're good. I mean, you would think, right? I mean,
right. I think that it's the same as all this helicopter parenting. To be honest with you, I think there's a connection.
Throw 50 pitches today, and God, who cares what the situation?
Them. Whatever happened to rub some dirt on it?
I remember getting a concussion in high school. I'm someone jamming, smelling salts in my nose, holding fingers up, me correctly counting that there were 3 fingers, and I was back in the football game pretty soon thereafter.
Go get him, Joe.
Yeah, go get him. Smack on the button. It's go get him. I had a couple of those. But I mean, who knows if that's good or bad.
I know. I just
So how are we going to get back to Jock Jams? Because we started talking about Jock Jams.
Because I was thinking about, everyone's got their walk-on music. And I'd like to say the Mets have, represented well, but they haven't. I think Yoenis Cespedes had the Circle of Life on for a while. Just all this terrible.
And it's loud. It's loud.
Oh man. Yeah.
It's like, I have to hear this loud music for you to ground out to the second baseman. You know, it's like this whole walk up.
Ike Davis used to use Start Me Up, and I liked it because it came to a point where it was the only song I could recognize in all the walk up music.
Oh, gosh.
And what would your walk up song be? Would you,
if I was a baseball player?
Yeah, if you were a baseball player.
Oh, that was the question that I'm getting to blindside me with?
Because I just want to know. I mean, that's something I've thought about.
You know, if it's something that, you know, on one hand, you want to think, is it something that's going to entertain the crowd or something that I like? So
is it representative of you?
Representative of me as like a juiced up athlete at the moment. You know, probably some like AC/DC song, you know, just or some kind of like, I can't think. I would like to think it'd be something a little more. I mean, I like Old Iron Maiden, maybe Run to the Hills.
Oh,
let's Run to the Hills. That's it.
But the key though to me is like you have to have like that solid intro, and it can't be like you can't. I think Welcome from the Jungle's got eaten.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Because I was thinking about it, like if I was going up to bat, I'd probably want a little Edge of 17, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, so I could ground out.
How about Winger 17?
No. Yeah, maybe a little Go-Go's We Got the Beat, yeah.
But, you know, I did some research yesterday, and again, we're allowing ourselves to do like a little bit of research for this podcast now. We're not just totally winging it. And I went through the playlist. So Jock Jams, in its primordial like configuration, were 2 albums, one in 1995, and then Striking Again While the Iron Was Hot in 1996. Right. And I went through the playlist. Right, so in looking at the playlist of the 1995 seminal album, there was a lot of songs I recognized and a lot of songs that just made me cringe. But, you know, I've heard every single one of those in stadiums. I mean, did you have the list, right? I mean, you have the playlist of the...
Yeah, I mean, the thing, it's weird. Jock Jams have morphed from this very bad Europop thing to kind of aggressive rock music.
Right.
But, I mean, when I think of Jock Jams, the first one that always pops into my head is actually one that's still used now, which is that Redneck's Cotton Eye Joe thing.
Yeah. I mean, the list is crazy. It's like, let's get ready to rumble at the beginning with Michael Buffer. Get ready for this. Whoop, there it is. Tootsie Roll. Oh, my God. I mean, just looking at this playlist, one. I mean,
Strike
It Takes Two to Make a Thing Go Right.
Snap. The Power.
Naughty by Nature, Hip Hop Hooray, Pump Up the Volume, Snap the Power, oh my God. EMF, Unbelievable. Poor Village People getting dragged into this classless thing with YMCA. Pump Up the Jams, oh my God. I mean, there's 20 songs.
And of course, like it finishes with...
We have to talk about that.
Gary Glitter,
Rock and Roll Part 2, which I never heard Rock and Roll Part 1.
There is no Part 1.
Okay, that's the joke? Is that the big joke?
Yeah.
Now, I've got a Gary Glitter story that deals with that song because, you know, certainly many stadiums played it. And, you know, Gary Glitter kind
convicted pedophile.
Right. Yes. I think he's doing time in Thailand or something, right? I mean, and repeatedly, like he's kind of like a repeat offender, right? They've let him out and he's like gotten caught again. And this is a strange story, but a story that has to deal with that song. Every year, for the last 15 years, since my son was very young, we would travel out every fall to watch a Penn State football game because I used to work with a guy as an architect, a great friend who then began teaching at Penn State. So every year, me and my son would go out and watch a game. We would travel out. It's a 4 or 5 hour drive. We would drive out, sleep over, go to the game, tailgate, do all the great stuff at a big-time college football game. It was a lot of fun. You know, we inadvertently got caught up in all of the Joe Paterno and Sandusky, all the issues that were going on out there with the child molesting and assaulting, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, we were there, and kind of every year we'd go to a game. So every year we could see kind of things changing. So we went to the year after this all happened, right? So we went and saw Joe Paterno's last game as a coach because I think this thing came out like 3 or 4 days after we saw that particular game. So he resigned. So we saw inadvertently saw his last game as a coach because he had resigned. Wow. And then the next, you know, so then all this crazy stuff happened and terrible things happened. And so the next year we went back out to a game. And, you know, you notice that the stadium was not full, right? They had really, you know, things had really changed about the attitude of big-time college athletics and, you know, kind of programs running amok and taking over the university. And, you know, not just to call it Penn State here. I mean, I went to a couple big-time state schools, and it's like that everywhere. They just happen to have gotten caught and happen to have done some terrible things with involving children. But what I always remember is, going back to the game, because every year the band would always play, hey, the crowd would get into it and rock and roll back and forth. So I knew this was going to be an issue. I knew that I was looking for it. I was looking for, will this band play this song by a convicted pedophile in light of what's going on right now at this university? And what they did was they played it, but they really, 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 I wish I had a recording of it. And I don't know if anyone else, not that I'm the shrewdest guy around, I don't know if anyone else picked up on this, because in subsequent years, they went back to playing the normal song.
Did they?
But they played it, instead of going, da-na-na-na-na, and the crowd going, hey, they played it, it went, dun-dun-dun, hey. So they took a note out and they made it noticeably different, the same tempo, the same crowd participation, but they really changed the song. And I thought that was really interesting. And I don't, no one ever wrote about it. No one ever talked about it. I don't think I've ever told anyone about that, because it's like, what am I going to do? But anyway, that's my Gary Glitter story.
Right. But, I think there's still a lack of awareness. And the fact is too that, what he did was a really terrible, high profile thing. All the other artists whose music gets played in the stadiums, we can really go down the line.
Right.
I mean,
not a lot of choir.
Axl Rose is not an angel.
Yeah, not a lot of choir members in this.
He's kind of an awful person, but of course, the beginning of Welcome to the Jungle. Who can deny that?
God, yeah.
Imagine,
nothing was winning Grammys like 3 years in a row. I remember it was he kept winning stuff because it came out at a really weird time, and I think I don't know if it got re-released, or there was something about the release of Appetite for Destruction that caused it to qualify for like multiple years of all kinds of awards.
I vaguely remember it coming out at the end of the year, but that's got to be like one of the most exciting 10 seconds of a song.
Yeah, oh my God. I mean, that was like 1987. I was a senior in high school. I mean, come on. That was insane, because there was a lot of hair metal and a lot of stuff with Winger and Rat, and
right. No, because it felt genuinely,
I like Motley Crue, but these guys were
genuinely threatening.
Like, it was like, wow. And the funny thing was, like, I felt the same way in terms of the tide changing when I did hear the first Nirvana album. I felt like, this sounds so simple, but I've never heard anything like it. And I think a lot of people felt that way. And my daughter listens to things now, and she can't really discern that music from much other things at the time. They're like, no, this was so. It was so revolutionary for what it was and what it wasn't, and what it was kind of like.
Right.
It wasn't all this hair metal. It wasn't Def Leppard. It wasn't all this crazy stuff. It was this different thing, and there was nothing really like it. It does sound very stripped down, but I remember thinking that way. And I'm no music critic, but I remember thinking that this was really unique.
Yeah, no, I agree. All those bands didn't know what hit them. Poor Motley Crue, they thought they had a few more years they could squeeze out, right? And Slaughter and Tesla, they're like, yeah, we got this, guys. We're gonna, and just kind of like
cruising
to
retirement. Right. Okay, so let's end. We're gonna end the segment with each of us naming our favorite Jock Jam. So I hope you go first.
It's funny because I always wonder if this is a Jock Jam. I mean, hopefully everybody remembers Naughty by Nature, or maybe they don't.
Oh, are you gonna say Hip Hop Hooray?
Yes, you know what?
But that's on Jock Jam, right?
Yeah, it is on Jock Jam. That's the one with the chorus that goes, "Hey, ho."
Yeah.
Okay.
But it has there's like a dinging, like a bell or a sledgehammer, like a.
It's really stupid. I would call it like proto Steal My Sunshine.
Right.
Don't you think? It's like the kind of the foundation,
like sing-songy, kind of sing-songy.
But the reason I like that song is totally personal and stupid. It's because when it came out and I was working at the record store, the DJ at the record store, whenever he would put it on, he would put my name into the song.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, ho. So whenever I hear it now, as if I hear it that often.
Let's hear the playlist again, because I have to pick. I have a couple favorites, but if I have to pick one favorite,
do you off of the first one?
The first one, yeah, because that's the gold standard, right? Because it got watered down after that. And there's all kinds of remixes, and there's all kinds of.
I guess we could call this the Revolver of Jock Jam. Because this does have.
Whoop, There It Is kind of a funny one that makes me smile every time I hear it. God, just thinking about these songs.
I'd almost rather hear that than Seven Nation Army. Is that wrong?
Right, and this Seven Nation Army happened after all of this, but they should go back and reissue this.
I think we need to demasculinize the Jock Jam. And go back to some of this cheese.
I would maybe pump up the jam. I don't know, Snap. There's so many good songs; it's hard to pick, but I probably would do There It Is. I hate to say it.
I'm worried about calling those things classics.
Favorites are classics,
But it's like you don't recoil. Like when I hear Rednecks, I just need to leave.
The Mets used to play that a lot, Cotton Eye Joe, and it's like, God.
Would you consider Sweet Caroline a Jock Jam?
Oh, that's right. All the songs that are getting co-opted now, like that was a big Boston Red Sox thing.
No, the Red Sox.
The Red Sox somehow that became something that they started singing. Take Me Out to the Ball Game with the Cubs. Is that the original Jock Jam?
Or the Giants playing "Don't Stop Believin'." The San Francisco Giants. Remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, because Steve Perry was a big Giant fan, and they used to do like
the Super Bowl Shuffle. I mean, where do you get so teams that have theme songs? What was the We Are Family? Remember we were talking about the Willie Stargell, the late '70s Pirates, and Dave Parker.
Dave Parker was their big slugger with attitude. I really liked him because he had an earring at a time when baseball players didn't do that. The earring was the tattoo of the '70s. But he's like, he would complain because Willie Stargell loved We Are Family, which was by Sister Sledge, who were 4 sisters. He'd be like, why do we have to... It says, I got all my sisters in me. Why do we have to sing a song with sisters? Why couldn't it be Ain't No Stopping Us Now? Right. Which, of course, classic.
Right.
Oh, man, someone should use that.
Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
Yeah, that's
I know, probably political. Then you get into the political campaigns that use all these songs, and then the artists come out and say, please, President Trump, stop using my song, like Neil Young.
Well, the only one I remember is when the Clinton was using Don't Stop, because Fleetwood Mac gave their stamp of approval.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, this is another episode of a Friday morning, interrupted a bunch of times, but squeezing a podcast out. Check out our website, 718 Cyclery. It's www.718c.com. A lot of cool stuff on the website. And
I'm pickinguprocks.com. That's my blog.
Well, so last week it was your sad little blog.
Music.
What did you call it last week?
Yeah, I called it my sad little blog. This week I'll just call it Goofy. Yeah, am I allowed to do that? And the other blog I write for is called Cover Me, where we wrote about the 50 best Bruce Springsteen covers, which some people didn't really like, but I invite you to take a look at it. It's at covermesongs.com.
Great. Well, thanks.
And what's your favorite Jock Jam? We want to know.
Yeah. Let us email us. Throw it up on Instagram.
Come out
let
of
us
the closet.
Yeah, we're also looking for topics. Any topics you want us to talk about, if it's music or sports related, anything but bikes, we're up for it. All right. Well, thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.